guys, my name is Nivaldo Soria with South Florida Investment, and today I'm here to answer a very common question that it comes out all the time from prospect sellers here in the United States. And the question is, does FIRPTA apply to the sale of my property? Does FIRPTA apply to the sale of my property in the United States? And in order for us to answer that, we need to start by understanding what is FIRPTA. And FIRPTA is a Real Estate Property Tax Act from 1980. Real Estate Property Tax Act from 1980s. Before 1980, United States realized that a lot of foreign national people were coming into the United States, buying property, selling properties for profit, and they were taking those profits away without paying their taxes. So United States said, well, give me a second, we have to create a law to avoid that. So they created the Real Property Tax Act from 1980. And let's see who does that property applies to. And we're going to understand by looking at that property FIRPTA applies to foreign national person, meaning that it's a person that is not a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, a foreign national person, and a foreign national corporation. And let's see what the property is all about. That means that it's a foreign national person and a foreign national corporation is selling a real estate property in the United States. The IRS is going to withhold 10 to 15%, pay attention to this, to the total sales price. So if you're a foreign national, you're selling a property, when you get to the closing table, you're going to notice that they're going to be withholding 10 to 15% of the total sales price of the property. Okay? Why do they hold that? Because they want to make sure that doesn't mean that they're charging you 10 to 50% property taxes. 10 to 50% withhold. They're holding that money until you pay the taxes that you made on the gain of the sale of that property. Meaning you bought a property for $200,000, you bought a property for $600,000, you're selling the property for $1 million, so they're going to hold 10 to 15% of $1 million, and when you pay the taxes that you made on those gains, then they give you the difference back. Okay? So I know what you're thinking right now, because a lot of you are looking at this and say, what if I bought the property? I'm going to answer those questions for you in a minute, because I'm going to answer the common question that you're going to have, because believe it or not, 80 to 90% of the people have no clue about this, especially foreign nationals. Okay? So let's see, let's ask the frequent question that we get. And a lot of people, I guess sometimes say, what about, Nivaldo, if you are not making any profit on the sale? Let's say you bought for $1 million, you're selling for $1 million, you're not making money. Okay, what happened? Still applies. You still have to, when you get to the closing table, they're going to withhold 10 to 15%. And once you do those taxes this year, when you hire an accountant, you prove to the IRS that you didn't make any money, you get all that money back. The other question is, that I get for many times, is what about if you're losing money on the sale? So not only that you bought the property for $1 million, you're selling the property for $800,000. You still have to do FIRPTA. They're still going to withhold 10 to 15% until you're able to prove the IRS with your accountant that was the way it happened. Okay? And what about, this one is very common, what about if you don't have enough proceeds from the sale at closing? Let's say, for example, you bought a property for $1 million, but you have a loan of $950,000. So, Nivaldo, when I get to the closing, I pay my loan, I pay my costs, I have no money. Well, in that case, you need to come to the table with money in your pocket to put the 10 to 15% withhold until you talk to your accountant. Very important that you get this in consideration, because it's still, that law is very hard to avoid. Okay? So now, let's talk about the exemptions. Who is exempt from FIRPTA? Let's say that you are for national or you are for national corporation. Who is exempt from FIRPTA? Let's take a look at those. Those are very important. And only two. Okay? Let's take a look. The first one is when the sale is less than $300,000 and That's why I put on. Take a look at that. When this property that you're selling is less than $300,000, in some cases, you might have an exemption from FIRPTA. What are those cases? Let's say that pretty much depends on the person that is buying your property. So let's say that you're selling your property for $290,000. If the person that is buying, pay attention to this, if the person that is buying the property has a primary resident, meaning that he's going to live in the property, and he's willing to sign an affidavit at closing that he's going to occupy the property 50% or more of the time that the property is being used for the next 2 years, then you have an exemption for FIRPTA. Only case, let's say that maybe you're buying and he's buying as a primary resident, but the buyer says to you, listen, I don't want to sign that affidavit because I don't know if I'm going to rent the next year. You're still not exempt. He needs to buy as a primary resident and he needs to be willing to sign that affidavit. If you have any more questions about that exemption, you can always give us a call. We are very familiar. We go through this process 5 to 7 times a month. Most of our sellers are for national. Number 2, when the property is owned by a United States corporation. That's another exemption. When the property is owned by a United States corporation and, why am I putting and? Because not every time, if the property is owned by a United States corporation, you will be exempt. Let's say that you are for national. You create a United States corporation, and that corporation is the one buying the property. You see that many often. In some cases, you might be exempt from FIRPTA, but in some cases you are not. That depends on the way the corporation was created, and how many owners does the corporation has, and who are the owners of that corporation, and how the corporation filed taxes. So you need to go back to the person that created that corporation for you, and you need to ask him, the way you create a corporation for me, does this corporation will be exempt from FIRPTA? You can always give us a call. We are very familiar with the subject. Okay, so this is very important that you have it in consideration, because also, if you're using a real estate agent, 90% of the agents don't have no clue about this law, about the way it works. Matter of fact, most of the sellers that I go and interview weekly, that I see that they're for nationals, and I tell them about this law, they don't know about it. They say, how come they never told me about this one, about the property? I would have created a corporation, I buy the property and do a corporation. Well, I told them, well, because you hired the wrong agent to help you find a property. You hired a real estate agent. You didn't hire a professional agent. And even worse, I see sellers that they get to the closing table and they see already, they don't know, and when they get to the closing table, they have a surprise. Oh, we're holding 15% of the sale for me. Really? How come you didn't tell me that? Well, the agent didn't know, so that's why you don't know, so that means that you hired the wrong person. So sometimes sellers get to the table and they see that. So that's why it's very important that you be informed, because even that's why you can question your agent and you can be prepared. Either if you're willing to sell your property and you are for national, or if you're planning to buy a property as a for national. You can always give us a call. My phone number is 305-219-8343, or you can click on the link below and schedule a 20-minute free consultation with me over the phone. Thank you for watching, guys. Happy holiday for all of you, and happy 2022. Thank you, guys.